steeper path to climb I choose, leaving comfort, nothing to lose. Through shadow trails and rocky ground, my purpose clear, my meaning found. Each step I take brings strength anew. Challenges faced, resilience grew. A journey tough but richly sweet, where soul and life's alignment meet. At peaks ahead, the vision clear, my greatest goals becoming near. The steeper path, though hard and slow, is where my truest self will grow. The steeper path.
Fascinated about expectations and stereotypes, like what it means to be anything. Everybody always has stories about what you're expected to be, what you're expected to be as an American, what you're expected to be as a man, what you're expected to be as a woman, what you're expected to be by your race, your religion. And Hawaii comes with a lot of distinct expectations of if you do this, then you're Hawaiian, and if you don't, then you're not. Was that kind of a pervasive thing for you when you were coming up?
Obviously, a lot of the other kids did certain activity. A lot of kids were into sports. A lot of them did regular paddling. My cousin did paddling. I remember they used to do these,
like outrigger canoe, Hawaiian canoe.
Right. And so that's where a lot of the kids went. They went to paddling, someone went surfing. A lot of people, but boogie boarding was a big thing with some of my classmates. Some of my teachers went boogie boarding. And it was just like an old rugged boogie board, but they would launch off these waves. But yeah, it's either like sports, water sports, paddling, beach volleyball maybe. But I think that's where a lot of the crowd gravitated towards in school. And then, of course, normal sports growing up in high school and middle school and all that.
Yeah, I was curious about it because I was talking to somebody who lives on the mainland who went and lived in Hawaii for a while. And they were saying it's the opposite, that if you, in some places in the world, if you're really into sports and not paying attention to school, people will be like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you not going to have a future? You're not paying attention to the thing that counts. You've got to study hard and have good grades. And then in Hawaii, it was the opposite. What do you mean you don't surf? Like, why aren't you at the beach? Why aren't you canoeing? Why aren't you this or that? And so it feels like it's a culture that collectively gravitates towards being outside and doing these type of sports that come with the landscape and the culture and the environment. And if you don't, you're a bit of an outcast. And that kind of struck me as different.
Yeah, it's very laid back here. And when I met new people, if it was transferring to a new school, and I didn't express really a lot of interest to do those activities, and they'd be like, well, yo, what do you do? They were shocked. And in terms of, I guess, the mentality, I remember we would have these journals we would write in, and then we were so proud. And I look back in this current day and how ridiculous it sounds, but we used to be so proud of saying, let's take today off. Let's do it tomorrow. Tomorrow is better, we would say. Right? And we took so much pride, and I just realized how bad that is. So much procrastination. But it's like a pride thing here. Yeah. Or at least in a couple classes it was. But yeah, very laid back, very outdoorsy. And yeah, a lot of my friends are definitely part of that crowd.
Yeah. Well, you said when you changed schools, did you move around a lot or live on different parts of the island, or was this just the natural changing of schools between grades?
Yeah, it's natural. Usually you go to elementary, intermediate, and then high school. Yeah. The first, until 8th grade, it was all in Kihei. So I live in Kihei, and high school, I actually went to my dad's high school, which is a school called Baldwin, and that's in town. And I had to make a choice because there was a certain bus route for the Kihei kids, and they went to Maui High. But because my dad went to Baldwin, I wanted to go there. And so me and my friend, to get accepted, we needed to apply for the drama program, and we took that class as a prerequisite to get into Baldwin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But then that's the period where we started seeing a lot of new friends, and a lot of our old friends went to Maui High, so we didn't see them as much.
Yeah. Yeah, those types of transitions are always tough. I find it funny that the thing you had to do to get in there is to apply to a drama program, because most schools that have transfer possibilities where they have a prerequisite, it's like you have to have a certain GPA or you have to have a certain level of coursework that you're doing. Was that a school that focused on the arts more, or?
I would say so. Yeah. The kids that were more into like the academics went to a school called Seabury. It was a prestigious school. It reminds me of Hogwarts a little bit when you go up country. And you could tell they were in their own class. When we visited for like certain craft fairs, it was like watching Slytherin. It was just a vibe. It was like, okay, these are the kids, right? And then all of the regular kids went to like public school. Oh, and of course you got Kamehameha as well. But yeah, I guess you could say Baldwin had some of the arts. There was even painting classes, there was drawing. So I guess you could say that it had more art classes than usual.
Did you take music classes when you were in school?
Yes, I did.
What sort?
So I started off with ukulele class in 7th grade. That was around the time I picked it up. I picked up the ukulele right before I turned 13 in 7th grade. And it was January where the class started, but I had already learned so much that it was pretty much like recess going to class. And I'd be like, okay, so that's the name of this chord that I've been playing. At least I got to know the basic names. But other than that, it was just going to class and rehearsing all the stuff that I've been doing at home. And me and my friend, my big Hawaiian friend, he was my mentor in my early stages. So what we'd do is we would practice a little bit at school, and then we would come home and we would do house concerts for my mom, my grandma, my grandpa, my dad as practice to play in front of an audience. And we used to look forward to that so much. He used to bring his little amp, and we used to like make a set list. It was so fun. But that's all during that class. But to be honest, I took the class, but I didn't really learn too much from it. It was just an excuse to take my ukulele out in a classroom.
So it sounds like the ukulele was not something you came to through school, but you discovered it before. When was the first time you remember paying attention to that instrument or to playing it?
Well, I have to credit school a little bit because my friend who was taking ukulele class he was a great hire. He came over on a Friday and he brought his ukulele. And I was like, oh, you have a ukulele? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, I'm taking class. And so my grandma she's always trying to push me into new activities. So she goes, here we go. And for years, she had this kamaka in her closet from the 60s. And every time I would want to touch it, she would say no. My grandpa said, no way. He was really strict about that uke. He thought maybe I would drop it or something. But she finally took it out and she goes, go learn from him. And I remember he taught me my first couple chords. I think it was an A. It was an A chord or something. And then C, of course, C, G7, and F.
Yeah.
But then he started coming every single Friday. We would have pizza and we would learn ukulele. And then my mom, out of nowhere, just starts showing me this picking pattern that she knew. She barely played, but those are like my very first 2 introductions to ukulele. And that was at the end of my 6th grade year. So about maybe 3 months after I was playing with my friend, I discovered Jikshim Bukuro. And that really opened my mind of what's capable on the uke. And that accelerated my learning for sure.
Yeah. So that's a very Hawaiian story. Even though we were just talking about things about you that may not be stereotypically Hawaiian, that is a very Hawaiian, uniquely Hawaiian way to come to music, is through taking ukulele in school. Because I don't think many school systems teach ukulele, let alone have classes for it. And I guess I'm curious, did you like the instrument before? Did you pay attention to Hawaiian music? Did this feel like it was a part of your identity? Or was this just like the entryway into music that just fell into your hands?
Yeah, so before that, I've seen the ukulele on covers, 3+, Brother Is, of course, but it never stuck out as something that really interests me. I was like, okay, it's that cool instrument. I loved rocking out the Johnny Mahoy when I was 5 years old, right? The old Brother Is album. But it was never like, oh, I want to learn how to play that instrument. And so I never really had an interest. Because to me, it wasn't really cool until I saw Drake play it. And then I was like, whoa, now that's an instrument that I want to play. Right? Because I feel like I didn't fit that Hawaiian mold that I saw prior, right? Before that, it was some big brothers singing. I don't sing, so I was like, I can't really relate to them. But when I saw Jake, it was like this 27-year-old, I guess you could say a kid, but him doing backflips on the stage. Like he really reinvented the image of the ukulele and the styles of music that he brought. He was the pioneer. He was one of the pioneers, and that was just so eye-opening. It was no longer just played as an accompaniment instrument and just playing 3 chords. It became like, wow, this is like a weapon now, and I want to learn how to play it.
So it went from being like a folk instrument that people played in backyard barbecues and get-togethers and luau's to you saw somebody who played this instrument in a way that you had never seen before, it sounds, and it inspired you. What was different about Jake Shimabukuro when you saw him as a kid compared to everybody else?
Just the way he played, too. Usually when you watch an ukulele player play, they're usually sitting in a chair. They're playing very relaxed music. So I remember my dad had asked me one day, because I was into Troy Fernandez, Call Crater Boys. That was my origins after my cousin Jonah showed me. So I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome. But there was this, I guess you could say, stereotype of a certain Hawaiian ukulele player. And when he asked me that question, like I automatically pictured like a Japanese guy from Japan, maybe around 75 years old, sat in a chair, kind of Otasan style. Yeah. But when I finally got a hold of one of his albums and I heard it, I was like, whoa. I was like, what is this? And I was like, this is pretty impressive. And not to mention, one of those songs that was on Jake's first album, kids were playing it throughout the school, but no one could figure out who did it. And so it all came together when I heard it. I was with my mom. We're in a Borders, and we had a book report that we were going to do. And then she goes, hey, that's the song, right? We heard it on the radio. And I was like, that is the song. Turns out to be My Heart Will Go On, right? By Celine Dion. And then so the lady looked it up in Borders, and she goes, oh, it's a guy named Jake Shimabukuro. So I was like, oh, it's that guy. It's the guy that Dad brought up. And then after that, we just bought all his CDs. I think he had 4 at the time. And then my dad bought me tickets to his first show that he was going to be on Maui 2 months later. And then I finally got to see him live.
And what was that show like? Was it a small show? Was it a lot of people there?
I think
was it something different about the type of crowd he attracted?
There were some young Japanese kids in there. Some people I don't know if they were flying in from Japan, maybe from Oahu, because there's a big Japanese population on Oahu, but there was a lot of Japanese people there. There were some locals. But I just remember the show was so dynamic. It had all my favorite songs that he played. And it was solo. There was no other band behind him. And I thought it was incredible what he could cover with just 4 strings. And the cool part was when I got to talk to him. And I remember that like yesterday. And I was nervous, right? Because he's pretty much like my superhero growing up. I would wear his shirts to school like a jersey because I was so proud to learn his style. And when I finally met him, it's like he gave me this vibe like he knew who I was. He's like, hey, what's up? I felt so welcome because you never know when you meet people you respect and how it's going to be. But after that, I made a commitment to myself, and I told myself, I want to play like that when I grow up. And it changed everything. And then every time he came to Maui, I made it a point to go see him, or I would go to Oahu. So I remember I went to see him like 15 times by the time I was maybe 16 years old. I was dedicated. And another reason was because YouTube quality was so bad. So to find the missing pieces, I would have to go to the show and see it live, and I'm like, oh, that's the chord I'm missing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it gave you a whole nother view on how to play his work, his music.
Yeah, I could see it up close, and I was like, oh, that's what he's doing. Right? So it was just like a triple win. It's like I got to see my idol, I got to enjoy the music that I love, and I got to piece it together, because those were the songs I was trying to learn with no help. I didn't have any music theory or any training. It was all just me.
So how old were you when you first saw him play and you got this moment of inspiration where you were like, I want to play like that?
13. 6 months after I started
13.
playing.
6 months. So 6 months after you got this instrument in your hand, it was clear to you that this was something you were called to, or that you were pulled to.
Yes, I don't know what it was exactly. I still can't put my finger on it, but I just knew. I said,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm tied to this instrument, and I feel like it's up to me to continue the journey that he started. Like, I want to help pushing the limits of this instrument, because there's still a big audience that think that the ukulele is still a trinket from ABC store for $31.95. But no, it's a serious instrument that can play any genre of music. But I love when it's underestimated, because it's where all the hard work goes to, and playing all these ridiculous covers. But yeah, I knew very early on, and I would take opportunities to even perform in front of the school. I remember the only time I had a really high grade A was in ukulele class. I had so much extra credit from performing in front of the auditorium and doing the matriculation at the end that I had 175%, the only A that I'll excel in. But I knew that one day I'd be playing in front of people, so I wanted to get the experience in front of the school, and eventually doing talent shows growing as I got into high school and stuff. But yeah, everything I did was pretty calculated in the classes that I took, because I knew that academics wasn't going to be my thing. So it's like but English, I enjoyed portions of English, because you had to give book reports, you had to speak, and those were the classes I was like, okay, I'm actually going to use this, and I'm going to put some more interest into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's super interesting that you noticed the pattern when you were just 13 to 16 years old, that there was something that you were really good at, that it pulled you towards it. It was encapsulating, engrossing, addictive. And you also saw the things that you were not good at. And everybody, I'm sure, didn't let you off the hook and be like, hey, this was great that you're interested in this. Just focus on playing ukulele. Did your family find this? I guess a lot of people at 13 would be like, good, I'm glad my kid has an interest that's not running around getting into trouble. But did they encourage you or support you in the music interest that you were developing at the time?
Definitely. They were really supportive. Yeah. Even my grandma would take me to some concerts. And going back to what we said earlier, I wasn't really into sports. I tried different kinds of sports growing up, and they're like, what are you going to do, Andrew? What are you going to do? Because obviously I wasn't gravitating towards anything. But I guess when they noticed I finally found something that I had a passion for, they're like, okay, we better let his passion just grow and grow, because this is the first time we're actually seeing commitment from him, hard work, because I worked very hard. And I had to do a lot of visualization too. I remember I would write in my journal. I would have dreams. Being on stage with Jake one day was a big one. I would write it down. And I knew it would happen. And it did happen. It was 2018, and I wrote it in my journal maybe around 2009. So it still happened, but a lot of it is due to the vision that I had. And it was tough, because I would try to tell people this vision, and they're like, yeah, you're crazy, man. You're just dreaming here. But I never gave up on what I believed in, and I knew it was possible. So I was just trying to tune out the naysayers and just continue on this path that I believed in,
Yeah. When you had that dream or vision of being able to play with Jake, and it came true in 2018, how old were you when you first got to play with him?
Oh, actually, I did get to play with him much earlier. I just realized I played with him in 2008, 3 years after I started playing. I was going to be a sophomore, and he invited me to play a couple songs in Hawaii Kai, and that was out of nowhere. I called him. I said, "Hey, we're gonna come see you later this afternoon," and he says, "Do you have your uke?" And so I said, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "You want to play a song or two?" And so I got so excited, I got so nervous, and I just practiced for the next 2 hours. And the video's on YouTube, and it was one of the craziest moments. And I had to just push through. My hands were frozen. I was so nervous, but I had to just persist. And the song came out pretty decent, I guess. But that was one of the biggest moments, and I'll always be appreciative for that. And then we later got to perform, I guess you could say, as peers after I established my identity and myself as a musical artist, creating music, coming out with CDs. And that was 2018. So it was very different. It was performing like as a fan and then as a peer. So it was very different from the first time, but both very good experiences.
That's a really cool and unique situation to have not only access to someone who you look up to, but to be able to actually meet them, to have the vision that you're going to meet them and to see it through. I'm very curious, like, what gave you that drive, that clarity? Do you ever think about that? Is it something that just happened, or because it's so hard to challenge yourself to become a peer of your heroes or to meet your heroes? And it can feel like borderline arrogance to say, oh yeah, I'm going to be at this level with these group of people. But you did it. And what do you attribute that to?
Not limiting myself. I always like to dream. When you're a kid, you dream big. There is no limitations when you're a kid. And I had a big imagination despite not immersing myself in all these activities. But at home, I would have these big, crazy dreams as a kid does. But when I met him, I was like, he's become a superhero in my world, but he's real. And after when I met him, I think it's when I first met him, I was like, wow, he's really cool. And after a few times, he started remembering who I was. And I said, you know what, one day, I'm gonna play alongside you as a peer. And even some of my friends that have to this current day, I told myself in high school, I'm gonna be hanging out with them one day. So it's the peer circle I dreamt into reality as well. And I guess you could say it comes from belief and confidence in myself, because I knew that I would be at that level one day.
Yeah, I think it's almost a form of manifestation. Like you literally saw your future and you bent the course of your life in that direction through self-belief, through envisioning, and through almost a form of affirmations to yourself, like constantly reminding yourself, like, I am going to do this. I am going to be here. And then you put in the work, and you had this sort of clarity to see that you had the raw abilities and the talent to do it. But behind all of that, which I think is really critical when we talk about stories of success or taking the more difficult road in life like you have, is that you put all these things together and you grinded it out throughout your life. And now you're one of the top ukulele players in the world. You're a teacher, you're a recording artist, you've been nominated for awards and have been out there touring the world, teaching at festivals. Your name is up there with all the tops, including Jake. And, that to have gone from, hey, I don't know where I'm at or what I'm good at, I'm not interested in being athletic, I'm not interested in being academic, but finding your thing, finding that path that you were able to step onto, and then to clearly push through it. That's a wonderful gift to have happen in a lifetime. Because a lot of people, they see it, and maybe somebody pops their balloon and deflates their dream.
Yes, that happens way too much. People sometimes lack empathy, and they don't know that one sentence can shatter a dream. For me, I came across people that said, you need to be real. I hate that. You need to be realistic. And for me, it was motivation. It was just like, let's see, because I know I can make it happen. And looking back, it's my teacher had showed me The Secret, the movie. And when I watched that, I was like, oh, wow, I think I had tapped into that 2 years before this, because I could finally articulate what was happening, because that's stuff that I'll visualize. And after we watched that movie, I just even further affirmed, like, I'm on the right path. I just need to keep believing and just tune out the people who aren't believers. You don't know how their journey is. They might be in a situation where they've lost hope. So they try to tell you what being real is, but it's all perspective, right? So for me, it was just like, okay, you're just going to have to toughen up and tune that out.
Yeah. Tell me about your family, because I think this is an important part of the story, because we just talked about the value of support and the value of having people in your corner when you choose a different path from others. What about your family, or tell us a little bit about your family and how that played a role in you becoming you?
So my family has always been supportive of whatever I did. My mom, my grandma, my grandpa, my dad. But there probably was a period where they were wondering what I was going to do, because they would always ask me. And this is going into middle school, and I never had an answer, but I always had this feeling of, I'm going to figure it out. And I know it's coming soon. And shortly enough, the ukulele came. But my dad's been a lifelong musician too. So he was one of my early mentors of just trying to get my songs in time, working and collabing with the different instruments, such as the bass. So he saw this interest, and coming from him as a lifelong musician from 18 years old until
he's
now.
A professional too, right? He's a professional musician, not just a hobbyist, right?
Right. And music was in my life since I was a baby, because my grandpa was a musician as well. He was in a big band with his brothers called the Molina Orchestra back in the 40s and 50s. So to my earliest memories, all the cousins and relatives, everyone played some kind of instrument, even if it wasn't professional. But my dad was definitely a working musician who had worked in LA, he worked in Honolulu, and then of course here on Maui. But when I made the decision to pursue music seriously, he told me, he goes, I'll support you. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. It's uncertain. Music is one of the hardest paths. And so I said, I'm willing to take the risk. And he said, okay. And he called up the people that he knew that could maybe help and guide us. And that whole journey started after high school and after I went to 1 year of college. But I owe a lot to my dad, because he really set the tone in the beginning, and he still does. I don't know what I would do without him, and I'm very grateful for his expertise and his manao.
Yeah, that's a really big factor, I believe. It's the icing on, no, it's not even the icing on the cake. I'm going to change my mind on what I was going to say. It's the foundation upon which you were able to become you, is having people in your lives who not only know that it's great to support their children in the direction they want to go, but know that it's possible to take a different path. And so this is not everybody who's listening who might want to be something they're not today, or who wanted to be or tried to be something else, is going to have this. But I think that's something that's quite special, is that when you're standing on a foundation in which people see another path as a possibility to make a living, and maybe it's even happened for generations. Because, what's the first thing most people say if they said their kid came to them and said, hey, I want to be a professional musician? What's the first thing they're going to say usually?
It's usually met with some backlash.
Yeah.
Like, be realistic. Is that what you really want to do?
Right.
And I do. I actually am a little, you could call it lucky, but I am glad that he is a musician too, because if he wasn't, then he might want to be more practical, because I've had friends who played ukulele with me, and their parents told them to be realistic, go to college. That's how you're going to survive in life. And I also use that as motivation too, because of their parents. I'm like, okay, I have to prove them wrong even more and show them that if you put your mind to it, you can go on any path that's meant for you.
Right. The steeper path is possible. The steeper path is real.
The steeper path is real. It's hidden, but you got to find it.
It's hidden. It's hard. It's not an easy climb, as your dad pointed out to you.
No.
Choosing to be a professional musician came with a lot of hard challenges. What are some of the rewards? What's the flip side of this? Because I can only imagine, have you ever had a job where you had to go to an office or punch a time clock or have a boss?
I've never submitted a resume, and I'm very relieved that I didn't have to. Musicians, the job of a musician can be very tough, but it is rewarding to be able to imagine and visualize this journey. And some of the greatest rewards is, again, connecting to some of these great musicians, these people that I've admired for years, to be able to call them friends. That's one of the biggest rewards so far. Another reward is when I started teaching. I didn't realize the fulfillment I would get as a teacher, because it's something I never really took to in my younger days. I just wanted to perform. But because of the pandemic, it was tough to work. My tour got shut down. We had to stay home. So I had to figure out a way to make a little bit of money on this side. So I started advertising for lessons. Within the first month, I was like, wow, like this is really awesome. Seeing them discover their possibilities was it just felt so good. And I was like, wow, I got to keep doing this. So I started teaching more. And yeah, it just makes my day when someone tells me, like, I never thought I could do that. Thanks for showing me the way. And it unlocked a purpose for me, a secondary purpose, something later in my life. But there's a lot of rewards. And then, of course, traveling as well. I love traveling the world. Maui can get small, and it surprises me that a lot of people don't even leave Hawaii. But in a way, I've gotten spoiled because now I want to travel all the time now and get off the island, use it for inspiration, whatever. But yeah, a lot of my work I do off the island because I have to tour. I tour the West Coast, UK, Ireland, went to Austria before, went to China. And I would say that's another great reward of this life, yeah.
Yeah. It comes with so many different aspects to which you get to do each and every day. And I imagine some days it's also a little bit intimidating because it's unstructured. Yeah. Because there's a lot of possibilities. What do I do with my time? How do I create the next thing I need to create? Or where do I find the energy or the motivation some days to just stay motivated, to keep moving myself ahead? And so I'm curious how you've experienced the bumps and waves on the path in terms of growth, like how you've gone from being 13 years old to now 33, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And in those 20 years, you have gone from being a kid with an ukulele in middle school to being a professional touring musician, a teacher, a songwriter. You've got a whole different life that's happened. Do you find that you've plateaued at times, or do you ever feel like you hit your growth limits, or you get burned out or bored of it even? Is the steeper path always one of just pure joy?
No, it's definitely not pure joy. I'll tell you this, when I have full clarity, the work is easy. Even if it's hard, the path is simple. It's when the road gets foggy is when it gets tough, because you don't know where to go. You don't know where to drive the ship. You don't know where the destination is. And that's the toughest part. Well, when you're training for an event, or if you're like, okay, I'm going to play this great venue, everything is pretty laid out so you can prepare accordingly, get your set list right. But then there's those part of the journey where you don't know what's going to happen next. And that's just, okay, what are the next action steps? Because of the lack of clarity makes it difficult. And I usually always have a plan. If it's, okay, I'm going to release third album this year, then, you can put your energy towards that. Well, I'm going to open my school in 2021. Let me put my energy towards that. So I think it's important that you have these goalposts of growth. Because if it wasn't for the school, like, I wouldn't be the teacher I am today. So I'm glad that I had to climb that mountain and develop those skills. Even talking in front of a camera, oh my gosh, I had to reshoot all the videos twice because of how bad it was.
Right.
And that was all during the pandemic, right? I think we were about 70% done. And just like the way I was phrasing it, sometimes the information would get mixed up. And so I was like, okay, it's going to be a lot of work, but let's reshoot everything. And we did with a different uke too. But it's those tough times that really bring your skill up. It's the temporary suffering that helps you grow. Being uncomfortable. But I hate the feeling of plateau though. You mentioned that. Whenever I feel like I'm at a plateau, I actually feel very insecure. And I feel like, okay, I need to reinvent something to switch it up. And that's how I feel when I play music. If I start to sound the same for a while, then I'll work very hard to up the next project and try new things that I haven't before. Because I don't want to be the guy where he goes, sounds like he was 10 years ago. That's the worst comment, I would say. And I don't want to fall into that category. So I'm always just trying to push my and it keeps it fun too. Honestly, when I'm not challenging myself, it's not fun. I find the most joy in trying to figure out these problems. Oh, how am I going to make a Rodrigo and Gabriela song possible on ukulele? Before that, I was like, oh, okay, let me just practice. But once I came across that track, I was like, boom, enter this state of flow, just at my desk, and just made it happen. But yeah, for me, I have to be in a situation where I'm challenged, where I can have the most fun, I think.
What comes in those moments of challenge for you? What happens in those?
Well, first is just really analyzing, is this possible? Because I've come across that many times where I ask myself, is it possible? And I've told myself no. But then I revisit it after my skill set is revised. And I'm like, let me try it now. Because I first came across that song maybe 2012 maybe. And I was like, okay, that's just certain songs aren't possible on ukulele. And then when I started writing the third album and the theme is called Evolve, I was like, let me try it now. And that's a theme that I've taken with me. Is just because you can't do it at a certain time doesn't mean you can do it. You cannot do it later because we're all growing. So why not revisit something that maybe you couldn't do before, and you might surprise yourself.
I like that. Being really open to seeing how far you can push yourself in new directions and leaning into the discomfort in those moments and into the places where the self-doubt creeps in or the challenge feels impossible. That keeps you from becoming stagnant in this journey that you're on.
Yeah, and I don't let those feelings in, because obviously there's that first initial self-doubt, especially when you hit the wall, when you hit the first wall,
right,
and your fingers aren't working. And this is a principle we can apply to anything. You meet resistance in anything, and you start second guessing yourself. Am I really meant for this? But you really have to, again, I hate to repeat myself here, but you really have to tune it out. And really, instead of worrying, you have to have faith. Mm-hmm. You have to have complete faith that it's going to happen. And even if it's slow, you have to keep trekking forward. And it's all a big experiment. When it's not happening, when you come across failures, you're really just finding ways it's not working. But if you're persistent, you will eventually find the way it works. And it's one of the tough challenges of arranging these songs, but it's so rewarding at the very end. When you finally got it and you can play it with fluency and all that, it's all those hours is completely worth it.
It all comes back to something really powerful. Yeah. This isn't a show about music or a show about your music, but I'd love for you to talk for a minute about your music and about the ukulele in particular. This is an instrument with 4 strings on it that, like you said, a lot of people think is a trinket or a toy. Mm-hmm. And I know your music really well, and I know what the ukulele is capable of. You mentioned Jake being somebody who put it on the map, but what do you do with the ukulele in your music? And what is your favorite song that you've recorded of your own? or any of them. It could be somebody else's too. I'd love to play it for folks so that they can, you don't have to play it right now, but I want to play it so that people can hear a little bit of what are we talking about here? Because this is really abstract for people who aren't fans of the instrument or don't know your work. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think there's a perception of the ukulele of being a chalangalang Hawaiian instrument. It's some people think it's silly. So,
yeah.
Are you a musician or are you just like a ukulele player? Right. So for me, it's to showcase the variety of the instruments. So for me, when I write songs, I try to make them very different. I'm not a singer. I play a lot of instrumental. But when I do covers such as Hotel California, Sweet Child of Mine, I make sure I can capture that melody on one ukulele. And it's a juggling act. But when it's put together on one instrument, it can sound pretty incredible. And one of my favorite songs is one of my originals called Resurrection. I know you know that song as well. But it's a powerful, energetic song, and that really was the theme of the especially the third album, Evolved. And so I have songs like that. I have a song called Surfing in Jaws. Again, I'm not a surfer, but I wanted to imagine myself if I was. So I wrote a kind of a surf tune. I'll play the background music while people can surf. But I'm always trying to do different genres, different types of originals. And so I would say I want people to come to the show and at least leave with one or two songs that they liked, and I can say that I covered a wide genre. Because there are some players out there that kind of limit themselves to one genre, but after a while, the audience can get a little antsy if you're just hearing calm music, right? You got to have a dynamic set list. So I strategically plan my set list. Okay, I'm going to start with something pretty high energy. Then we're going to put a ballad in there. Then we're going to put it in a cover. And then, of course, we're going to end with a bang, right? And I think it's important to have a dynamic set list like that.
I'm going to play for everybody so they have a chance to hear it. The song is really powerful. A lot of emotions are in that song. There's a lot of meanings in that song and in the whole album called Evolve. So you think a lot about growth and evolution and about evolving. It's a theme of your life. And I know you've taken your way of approaching growth and constant learning and improvement into other places. You've evolved into other places. And like, I understand you also are a martial artist, that you practice jujitsu, something that you take a lot of joy and pride in. What did taking on a new pursuit like martial arts, what did music teach you about that? What about your journey or your experience? Has this pattern been something that you could take with you into other places in your life?
Ooh, that's a good question. There are some parallels when it comes to jujitsu and playing a song. Climbing the mountain is one of them. Right? It took quite a few years and a lot of hours to get to the required skill set for even the first album, which is, it's not even close to my latter ones. Same like when you start off as a white belt, you're getting your tools together, but you still can't really put things together. You know, that'd be equivalent of, I know these techniques on uke, but I can't write a song yet. And I got my purple belt last year, so it's only 5 belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm in the stage where I'm teaching now in Jiu-Jitsu, so a lot of my teaching skills from the ukulele world translate to the Jiu-Jitsu world of how having to simplify these steps so they can understand. And that's one of my favorite parallels, because again, I just love when people can connect the dots and I can help shine the light for them. And so teaching is one of and having to deal, it's a big mental battle as well. Every performance is different, every role is different. You don't know how it's gonna go. You could play the same song every day, but it's going to be different. Same like the roles. You spar with the same person the whole week. It's always going to end differently. So there's certain adaptability is something that transfers as well. But I think it's a good balance. It keeps my mind very sharp and to adapt and to bring on new challenges.
I like that. I would imagine a lot of the same mindset battles happen when you're trying to learn to do, when you're trying to gain some mastery in jiu-jitsu that you had in achieving mastery in playing music. And I think they're all kind of universal. It's as much of a head game as it is a physical game.
Yeah.
In achieving mastery with this.
The performance, we'll call it performance, right? So I would say preparing a song and getting to know that inside out is equivalent to learning a new submission. You learn how it's done and you learn the technical part of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can play it out. You cannot play the song out quite yet. You have to refine it to the level. And when you do, then you can play it out. Same like the submission. You can know all the technical aspects, but that doesn't mean you can pull it off. And that takes a lot of reps too. So there's a period where you're trying to get a new submission and it takes a lot of effort, and then you're making a lot of mistakes, and then eventually one day you're going to lock it in and you're going to submit the guy. See, unlike the song, right? So many times I've tried to play a song before it was ready, and my dad would look at me just like, there was a lot of mistakes in there, and you can hear that. At least in the roll, you can't see. The mistakes aren't as brutal as a song because everyone hears it. But feel like there's a lot of similarities on getting a song ready, getting it to an optimal level, and then also getting a submission, right? It's something new for your arsenal.
Yep.
But it requires a lot of hard work, and then performing it is a completely different thing than knowing how it works.
Yeah, I can only imagine it's also it's physical, and music is also physical. And so there's a certain degree of muscle memory that becomes part of how you're working and how you're able to perform at a higher level. And muscle memory comes from repetitions, from just doing the same simple things over and over again, and the same ability to do something repetitively until you get your body and your mind to do it right. That applies to both worlds.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that crossed over some too.
Right. You want your body to be on autopilot, same as like your music, right? And that's when you know if you're either rolling or playing music, is it to the level where you can start shifting your attention, right? When you're learning the chords, first you usually start with the left hand. Okay, let me get the left hand movements here, and once that's done, then you can focus on the orchestration hand. Okay, this dictates how the tone is. This dictates how it's being played. This is pretty straightforward. This is going to sound the same, right? The chord hand. And then after only a certain few hours, it could be 10, it could be 20, it could be 50, I don't know, depending on the difficulty of the song, is when you can start playing this and doing something else. You could start reading off of a newspaper and be able to do this at the same time. And I think that's when you're on the road to mastery, right?
Yeah.
Or you could say maybe you earned, for this song, you've become a purple belt. That's how I like to use the belt system.
Yeah.
It's easy. A lot of people can relate to it. So when I have to ask myself sometimes, what belt am I with this current song? If I'm still a white or blue, then I still got to put in some work before I can start focusing on other things. So let me get my purple first, and then we can start focusing on the other parts of the song. But initially, yeah, it's just all into that one technique.
I like that. The belt system, I think a lot of people have heard of. I'm a black belt, I'm a blue belt, I'm a white belt, but there's something universal to martial arts about having, or at least Asian martial arts, to having this tiered system of mastery from beginner to master. And it's cool that you can apply that framework to lots of different places, whether it's a simple song or to your entire life.
Yeah.
And there is that constant learning element. Even I understand in martial arts, even if you become a black belt, that's not the end.
No, it's not.
There's like degrees of black belts that go above that, right?
Really high level. And another thing that the belt system has brought to me is it's helped my perspective with others. Let's say you come across someone who's really talented at a specific skill. You can say, oh, he's a black belt. Just really high level. Let's say communication. They're really good at communicating with others, and they have a maximum charisma. Okay, he's a black belt. His charisma is a black belt. But then let's say maybe he's not really a tech person. You could say, but he has a blue belt in tech.
Yeah.
So that's how you can manage a new person. Like, I guess you can use it of how you empathize with others. Is just see them having different belts in different categories than just assuming, you just don't know something, right? But it's just that they're a white belt. They don't have that much experience in that certain area. So I think seeing it that way can help people's perspective of just of looking at specific skills. Like for me, yes, you could say black belt musician, performer, whatever, teacher. But in the kitchen, I'm still a white belt. And I want to get my blue. I'm really uncomfortable in there. But that's how I gauge.
Right.
That I throw belts on different categories, and it's just okay. It's really helped me understand others as well.
I like this because I think a lot of us, as we age and as we attain a sense of mastery over whatever we choose to do in life, find ourselves getting really comfortable with the narrative that we are a master or achieving mastery of something over time. And one of the things I find about people who do very well in walking the steeper path to a life of greater goals and to a very different outcome of fulfillment and success for themselves is that they actually don't allow themselves to get comfortable in a single belt and to just cling to the belt. Because I think when you cling and you think, oh, I'm a master of this, that's when you actually become less of a master.
Exactly.
Because you stop learning, you become complacent. So I'm very curious, like now that you've achieved 20 years of work into becoming a professional musician, being one of the best players in your instrument, being well known in the field, how do you keep yourself from becoming complacent or becoming lost in that idea of I'm a master? Then in Buddhism, there's this idea of the beginner's mind, which that is a mindset of continuous awareness that you know nothing, no matter how much of a master you are, nothing. And coming back and resetting every day with life and saying, what am I here to learn today? All right. I'm always learning. Right? So where's that happening for you in music and in life? When you get to this place at 33, where are you going to go next? How are you going to keep being a white belt?
I think it's always keeping the ego in check, right? Because I know what that feels like as a high schooler, finding that early success, and that's when I stopped growing. It's because I thought I knew a lot of things at the time, and I think it's pretty normal for especially a young male. It's 16 years old. Some of them, a couple peers that they had the ego problem too. But in this current day, I'm always telling myself, okay, what can I learn? Because if you can learn something every day, then you're going to really sharpen your mind. So with ukulele, it's, okay, new album. What can I do now that I haven't done before? What are some dreams that I want to chase? What are some players that I would like to meet in this current day? How can I make that happen like how I did before? And be able to visualize this new peer circle, whatever it is. And so I think about these things every day, and I'm going to continue to put out new music and try new things.
I like that. Have you ever wished you could be something else other than a professional musician? Have you ever dreamed to be a professional martial artist or something that we didn't even discuss?
Martial artist, I thought about it. I watch a lot of UFC, I watch a lot of MMA, and I was like, if I could restart with new stat points, then maybe. But I could never keep, because from the experience I have with jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of injuries, and it really, it's as much as it balances the mental side of being a ukulele player, it's really messed with my body. So sometimes my knuckles are sore, or my joints. I was on crutches like last year. So it doesn't really go together. But in the future, I would love to spread my message on a stage as well, but not as a ukulele performer, but as a speaker.
Tell me more about that. I like that.
Yeah, I found a lot of fulfillment, again, by helping people get to where they want to be. And I thought to myself, how can I expand that, but also bring elements from the ukulele to the stage as well? So maybe it's incorporating some ukulele and also some enlightenment, and entertainment. And so that's probably going to be the next step. Because in this current path of ukulele, I'm not sure what there is next to achieve or to pursue. So I'm at this current fork in the road. But I'll always be a musician at heart, but I feel like there's a higher calling for me.
That's beautiful, man. I love that you recognize that voice and have leaned into it, that you're paying attention to it. What inspired or led you to the place of spreading a message, or using what you have learned about being on a stage to help others in new ways, or to step outside of them? Because I'm sure you help a lot of people through music, whether you know it or not, but it's a different way of helping when you step up in front of a group of people.
It is, and I realized finding joy in helping beyond the ukulele. Like, I have some friends that I mentor, and sometimes we don't even talk about ukulele stuff. Sometimes it's life stuff. They tell me, oh, this is what my dreams are. Like, how can I get there? And for me, I love to just spend some time with them and help lead them in the right direction. So it taught me that I want to educate outside of ukulele. Ukulele is just a vehicle. And I'm sure there's some great teachers out there who just want to stay in that lane. But for me, it's more about, it doesn't matter what the topic's about. But if I can help them get on the right path, and a path that they feel like they need to be on, that's my favorite crowd to play for. And really open their possibilities on unlocking their potential. That's what I feel like this calling is for.
As a coach and somebody who spends a lot of their time doing this with other people every day, I can fully lean into and relate to that. That being deeply fulfilling and exciting.
It is.
And so I fully respect that. It's cool to hear people who have spent their lives walking down one path, trying to attain mastery, getting to a certain place and saying, I want to try something new. I want to try something different. And I love that and deeply respect that about you, that you're continually pushing yourself and asking these types of questions. Like, what would the next evolution of me be? What would that look like? How am I going to get there? What lessons am I going to take from the steeper path that I've already walked to continue climbing in new forks in the road ahead? So what are some of the lessons that you think you are going to take with you from your journey so far in music to helping you navigate a whole nother world that you're stepping into?
Well, I think if you outline the journey of the music portion, I might be able to replicate a similar path in future endeavors, because I have a basic template that's gotten me far. I know that it works. And so it's, how can I create a game plan of this variation for me to succeed? Right. And things are coming together. I'm putting in the work, doing this is the most reading I've ever done. I didn't read a book since the end of high school. And in the last year, I think I've gotten about 30 done. So
amazing.
It's just really just sharpening the mind. And a lot of us just sharpen the body, go to the gym, get fit. But a lot of people don't think to sharpen the mind. And the mind is so important. So sharpen both.
Yeah, man.
So that's what I try to do.
So it's taken the playbook of focus, envisioning, persistence and grit and grind, knowledge, pouring yourself into the acquisition of new knowledge. And then I imagine part of the next part is going to be stepping out in new ways and getting comfortable being a beginner again at something new, as learning how to suck at something new again.
Yes.
Yeah, but the cool part about life is that if you develop a playbook like this and you develop the muscle to learn how to do something, go play outside for the first time in front of an audience, outside of your parents and your grandma, with your friends, but to have that muscle to do it, that is a gift that can be repeatable and a playbook that can be used throughout your life. So that's pretty amazing. Anything that you would suggest to people who are listening to this that are standing at their own moments going, God, I really wanted to be this, or I wanted to be this, and I don't think I can. What is it that you would tell somebody who was the equivalent of 13-year-old you staring down a dream?
If you feel like it's meant for you, then you should pursue, no matter what anyone else says, because no one else knows how you feel. And I think a lot of kids are put in this one-size-fits-all module. And a lot of authority figures don't understand what individuals are going through. And I know what it feels like firsthand. But just go with what you believe in. Go with your passion. Because if you're not living that life, then you're not living an authentic one. You want to be able to be happy, be proud of the path. No matter how ridiculous it sounds to others, it doesn't matter. Because you ask some students what they want to do. Some of them want to feed sharks. Someone wants to be a police officer. Whatever it is. And then some other kids laugh and say that's ridiculous. Is it really ridiculous? No, it's not. So if you have a calling, if you feel like you really need to do something, do it.
I couldn't agree more.
And find people that are supportive of that vision. Because it's tough. It can be tough around people who are unsupportive and making you think you're crazy. But it's just, you need to get around the right people that are supportive. And that's what I had. That's something I never mentioned before, is that growing up, I had this circle of friends. And I owe a lot to their support, because they believed in me at times where I didn't believe in myself. And I remember it was in school. It was one of the very first performances. I was having one of those moments where I was like, my fingers aren't working. Should I even be up here? Should I be trying to do this? And they said, dude, yeah, you're Andrew Molina, right? And I'm like, wow. We were like kids, right? But I was already playing in front of the school. But when they said that, they made me remember who I was and my main mission and my main goal. And so having a support system, even if it's like a couple of friends, as long as they believe what you believe and you believe in them, anything is possible. It's just two other people, but it made a world of difference. And actually, the reason I started drifting a little bit was after my friends, we went our own way in high school. One of my friends moved away. And I just felt like that, crazy enough as it sounds, it really affected my self-esteem and my confidence. I feel like that support was gone. And then I started becoming a little less confident. It was very strange looking back. But that made me realize, like, having the right team around you, having the right people around you can make a world of a difference.
Yeah, that's a really powerful point, man, because you can't do hard things alone. It's hard to do hard things alone. You can, I guess, if you really have to. We all can. But it's so much more attainable to have those arms, those shoulders to lean on, to have those arms to support you, to have that encouragement. And I think that's another great lesson of your sort of formula for this, how you got here, how you took your own path, and how you ended up continuing to walk this mountain that you're on. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's a really important point. Having a community of support, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a mentor, that throws gasoline on your fire.
Yeah, and I tried to lie to myself. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people do the same, where we tell ourselves, we don't need anybody. But deep down, we know how good it feels. We know there's a sense of safety when we get around the right people. We know we can be vulnerable. We're not just stuck in our own thoughts. And small belief in that support of them telling us, hey, we got you. It means the world. And, right, we're designed to take care of each other.
Absolutely. That's a very great way to sum up one of the many values of the Native Hawaiian people that you grew up in. And me personally, I'm quite fascinated with and interested in Hawaiian culture, because it's one of those cultures where when you get to know it, there's a lot of humanity in the ways of the Native people and in the values of the Native people, and coming together as a family to support each other, to share knowledge, to help each other in a way that I think I guess it's survival. When we had a bunch of people living on a very isolated island in the middle of the Pacific, far away from everything, people had to lean on each other more. And I think we forget that. How has that influenced you as you've grown up in Hawaii and been around this mindset? Or at least, I know it doesn't always play out every day. I'm not going to sugarcoat that it's a magical fairyland by any means, because it's life, it's humanity, there's good and bad people. But how did that influence you in terms of how you think about your own path?
There are some deep bonds that we have with some really close friends that I've known for a very long time. And Even though we don't see each other, we still have this unified bond from so many years ago. And when you meet, it's no time has passed. And these are the people we would go to the houses when we were small. We used to kapila in the back, right? The uncles would be playing guitar, they'd be singing, we would be having some good food, all the relatives would be around. And so it very much is part of the culture here. A lot of people do that, kani kapila, beach barbecue, hang out. But there's always there's always this harmony, this unity with the locals. We always make sure to be very respectful, especially towards the elders, right? Good example is hanai, right? Hanai is a word we use for if you have a connection with somebody. So if I have a good buddy, I can call him my hanai brother, right? And so growing up, my mom, she would tell me, she goes, I have 4 hanai sons. And those are my friends who would come over. And they still come over to today. And they tell my mom, I remember all those great times we had. Used to play N64 with us. She used to play video games with us. And they haven't forgotten that. And so it was, I would say that's very much in the culture here. Everyone's just really down to earth and willing, especially the uncles. The uncles really, especially if you put the initiative to ask for help, they love to hear that kind of stuff. And they're more than willing to help. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you just said that I understand knowing the culture really well. But a couple of words just to clarify. Kani kapila means to make music together.
It's a jam session. It's a Hawaiian jam session. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody gets together. Tell people, what's it like to go hang out kani kapila and do stuff together? What's that look like?
So kani kapila usually is all the and honestly, thinking back, the kani kapilas I've been to was always like in the kind of the country area, like some uncle's house. There's a big backyard, grass, one of those tents up, and there's always like a spread of food, fish, steak, venison, whatever it is. But then they're always like in a circle, kapila circle, and they're playing music. And what you usually do during the kani kapila is one uncle will start playing chords, and then people will just start playing along. And no sheets of music whatsoever. You're getting put in the deep pool, and it's intimidating. The first time I was nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. And I played all the chords wrong. But at least I still did it.
Yeah.
But you keep learning as you go along. But we're on this journey. We're gonna go through the mud together. And everyone's really supportive. So I've definitely grown because of it.
I love that part of it because it is, like you said, pushing people into the deep end. It's a community of support. And people grow in communities of support. People grow in jam sessions. Yeah. And this is one of the coolest parts that I've taken away from my experience in music and as a musician is that jam sessions are where musicians are actually made, not in music class.
No.
And the fact that the Hawaiian way of approaching music is let's all sit in a circle and play together, and I'm going to push you in the middle.
Yeah.
And there's this phrase that you will know exactly what it means that nobody else probably will, which is just press.
Just press, right? And the cool thing is I think we all have a wounds when it comes to doing something wrong, right? If it was a teacher or telling us, writing red pen marks on our paper, we have this anxiety. So I remember I didn't play the chords right. So I told the uncle, I said, hey, uncle, I'm sorry. I didn't have the right chords. He goes, it doesn't matter. The main thing is you played. And he goes, you get the chords next time. And I was like, wow, this is great. I don't feel exposed. I don't feel shame. I feel like I'm part of the group and I'm learning. So
that's right.
Very supportive.
What does it mean to just press?
Just press is you just look at what everyone's doing and you just play. You just play. You don't overthink it. You jump in. You watch. You look at the other kid's hand and you replicate the same chord, and that's how you go.
Yeah, I think we all need a lot more of this in our community of support around this conversation, around taking the steeper path in life. And this is one of the goals I have for myself is to create these communities where people can say, okay, I'm just going to push you in the middle where you want to be. Just press. Go be who you want to be. Go choose the life you want to live. Go walk the path you want to walk.
Yes.
And it's a lot easier when you got a group of people around you.
Agreed.
Yeah, man. This has been a fantastic conversation. I love, that you are somebody who every day lives this journey and who lives this value of continuous growth. I love that you had the bravery and the self-confidence and the system of support to be able to push forward. And it's an example for everybody, and that's why we need to tell these stories. There are people out there every day who are choosing to go about life a different way. It is possible. It's possible, and it was possible for you, and it is still possible for you. It's possible for everybody else. What, if anything, if you could leave a word of encouragement to somebody out there who is listening, who, maybe is in a job they don't love, or is a kid in school who's trying to figure out, how am I going to be something when I grow up that I don't hate? Or somebody who, is raising children and they see an internal battle within them that, like, gosh, I really should be pushing them to be good at academics or to get a great job and go to Stanford or whatever the hell that they think is the right thing to do. What is the takeaway from your journey so far? If you could sit down with somebody and put your arm around them and say, hey man, like, this is what's up, how we do it.
I would say a lot of us were taught there was a way to do something, the right way, the way that everyone should do it. But yet there are so many people that are unhappy because they're not living their life. They're living someone else's dream for them. So it's not worth it. And no matter how old you are, if you're in your early 20s or if you're in your early 50s or 60s, you can still make the decision to finally start living the life that you were meant to. And I love you're talking of alignment. Alignment's a real thing, right? When you're not living in alignment, you're not happy, not energized.
Yep.
But when you are, everything just feels right. And we know when we're feeling that certain way. We know when things are going right. We know when it's aligned. So don't care about what anyone else says. If someone gives you backlash, who cares? Live the life that you want, because we only live once.
I love that, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on and doing this and sharing all of your knowledge and your experiences and your music too. Really appreciate you, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
The steeper path, the climb I choose, leaving comfort, nothing to lose. Through shadow trails and rocky ground, my purpose clear, my meaning found. Each step I take brings strength anew. Challenges faced, resilience grew. A journey tough but richly sweet, where soul and life's alignment meet. At peaks ahead, the vision clear, my greatest goals becoming near. The steeper path, though hard and slow, is where my truest self will grow. The steeper path.